Welcome to Hamburgers and Horror, the home of meat, monsters, and mind-controlling social misfits. I'm Noah Hook, and today we're looking at Scanners. This 1981 sci-fi horror follows a small group of people with strange telepathic and telekinetic powers known as Scanners. A weapons company called Consec has begun utilizing scanners for their own purposes, but a renegade named Revik has begun waging war against the company. Consec dispatches a scanner suffering from memory loss to stop Revik before all the scanners are eliminated. The film was of course written and directed by David Cronenberg. At this point he'd already made Shivers, Rabid, Fast Company, and The Brood, but he was still pretty unknown to general audiences, especially those outside of Canada. Scanners is arguably one of his most accessible films, but it still has a lot of that patented Cronenberg crazy shit. It was also one of Cronenberg's most rushed productions, as they were forced to start filming before the script was even finished in order to receive the government funding that Canada provides. He actually ended up having to write scenes the morning before they were filmed. Scanners has an awesome cast including Stephen Lack from The Rubber Gun, Jennifer O'Neill from Summer of 42, Patrick McGoohan from Braveheart, Cronenberg regular Robert Silverman, and the wonderful Michael Ironside from Top Gun, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers. The cinematography was handled by Cronenberg regular Mark Irwin, who also shot The Brood, Videodrome, The Dead Zone, and The Fly, as well as other classics like The Blob, New Nightmare, and Scream. The score was composed by the masterful Howard Shore, who has scored a whopping 18 Cronenberg films. The makeup effects were done by the godfather of makeup himself, Dick Smith, who has worked on The Exorcist, Taxi Driver, The Deer Hunter, Starman, and The Godfather Parts 1 and 2. He collaborated with effects artist Chris Wallace from Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi, and Gremlins to create some of the film's most iconic effects. Scanners made over $14 million at the box office, quadrupling its relatively small budget. It was met with mixed reviews from critics though, some who thought the characters were dull and the story was convoluted. The film has only gained adoration through the years though, with growing appreciation for Cronenberg's political allegories, Ironside's commanding performance, and the fantastic practical effects. It currently has a 68 and 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, so while it isn't Cronenberg's most beloved film, it still has a pretty consistent appreciation. Thank you to my patron Lee for requesting Scanners for me to review. I've seen Scanners a few times now and I've come to appreciate it more with every viewing. Aside from a few shocking scenes, it's one of Cronenberg's most subtle films. It really requires you to pay attention to follow along. Speaking of, it's probably time we get started. I hope you're ready to get your brain sucked dry, cause we're watching Scanners. The movie opens on a vagrant named Cameron Vale. As he steals food from mall goers and empty tables, he notices a pair of women who find him disgusting. He stares the women down as a high-pitched buzz begins to intensify, and the meaner of the two starts moaning and seizing on the floor. Cameron is responsible for this, and two trenchcoat-wearing gentlemen notice as he gets woozy as well. They pursue Cameron and shoot him with a sleepy dart, which eventually causes him to pass out. He awakens to meet Dr. Paul Ruth, who tells Vale that his misfortune in life is because he is a scanner. It has been a curse to him, but Ruth wants to show him it can also be a power. A large group of people begins to fill the room, and their many thoughts begin to fill Cameron's mind. Ruth has Vale and the group sit in silence for an extended period, but for Cameron it is close to torture. The doctor injects him with a mysterious liquid, and Vale is shocked as the voices in his head begin to disappear. We jump to a Consec marketing event where a powerful scanner plans to scan everyone in the group. They consist of big business people, the kind that may need a little extra something in their security measures. The goal is to showcase the untapped ability of scanners by reading their thoughts in real time. He reminds them that the scanning process is often painful and disorienting, and a man volunteers to be the first one scanned. He joins the scanner on stage, who asks him to think of a personal memory he doesn't mind having shared with the group. The man locks into a memory and the scanner starts his scan, but looks like something is wrong when it's the scanner that starts twitching and seizing up. The anonymous man focuses up instead, and kaboom! His fucking head explodes. It's glorious. Consec security evacuates the group and they take the mystery man at gunpoint. A doctor tries to inject him with ephemeral, the drug used to hamper scanner powers, but nobody seems to notice when he's forced to inject himself. The Consec men are delivering him to a more remote location for questioning, as they are all but certain he is also a scanner. They are correct, as the man takes over the mind of the second car's driver, and he has him swerve into a fiery death. They stop to help, allowing the scanner to take control of the gunman. He pops his partners and then himself, and the scanner escapes into the night. This fiasco does not look good for Consec, as it was their first time revealing their scanner research to the outside world. Consec President Trevelyan has promoted Braden Keller as the new Director of Internal Security. Keller believes Consec should stick to guns and militias and immediately stop the scanner research program. Ruth points out that it wasn't one of his scanners that caused the incident, but an assassin that snuck through internal security screening processes in the first place. The scanner killed 6 people and managed to escape, and that proves to Ruth that these telepaths are the future of private weaponry. There are only 236 known scanners in the world, and while all of them quit the program last night, Ruth points out that they've steadily been losing contacts for a while. He believes there is a program greater than theirs that is luring scanners away to their cause. He believes their leader was here last night, and his name is Daryl Revik. He was once a part of Consec's program before defecting, and Ruth suggests they convert a still unknown scanner to their cause and have him assassinate Revik. Keller doesn't believe scanners are reliable enough to trust with something this big, but Trevelyan agrees there must be retaliation for this attack. And luckily for Ruth, he recently got his hands on a brand new scanner. He meets with Cameron, who admits he is afraid that he can finally hear his own voice instead of everyone else's. He asks what Ruth meant when he called him a scanner, and the doctor explains that he has certain telepathic abilities. Nobody knows how these powers emerge in certain people, and we learn Ruth is a psychopharmacist that specializes in creating drugs to inhibit scanner abilities. Cameron says he didn't mean to hurt that woman at the mall, but her comments about him forced him to think about her, and that focus caused the seizure. He also says the group of people who sat here drowned him in their thoughts, as he isn't able to stop them from seeping through. Ruth describes ephemeral as a scan suppressant designed to stop the flow of voices into a telepath's mind. Keller watches this discussion with a suspicious satisfaction. We watch an old recording from Revik's younger days after he drilled a hole into his head to relieve the pressure caused by the sea of people inside. Not just their voices, arms, legs, entire bodies take up space that should be room for him. More questions leave Revik getting agitated, and he throws a glass at the interviewer. Ruth says without ephemeral and guidance, Vale will end up just like Revik, who has gone from being self-destructive to outwardly destructive. He says Revik is their greatest enemy, as he is seeking out scanners one by one to help him destroy the society that made him. He came looking for Cameron, but Ruth found him first, and he would have killed him if he refused to join, just like many others. Ruth believes scanners will bring glory and brilliance to the future, and the mass death of them must be stopped at all costs. Meanwhile, we confirm our suspicions about Keller. He's a double agent working for Revik, and he shares that Ruth is in the process of indoctrinating Cameron Vale. They don't seem worried though, as Vale, just like all the other scanners, are very weak compared to Revik's power. Ruth begins testing Vale's ability by having him compete against a scanner named Dieter. He is able to control his own heart rate, and Ruth wants Cameron to focus on his heart. Scanning is not just mind reading, but the direct linking of 2 separate nervous systems. He wants Vale's brain to speed up Dieter's heart, and if he succeeds, Dieter will simply take back control to slow it down. Cameron passes the test with flying colors, but he's actually so powerful that Dieter can't take back control. He makes the poor man suffer before finally stopping his scan, and he seems quite pleased with himself. Ruth shows him images of a scanner named Benjamin Pierce, who may be a knowledgeable source when it comes to Revik's regime. Pierce tried to kill his family as a child, but was apparently rehabilitated through art and now has a successful sculpture practice. They send Vale to the art gallery that represents him, but the gallerist says that Benjamin is a recluse who refuses to meet his audience. No worries though, as Vale can simply scan him to find Pierce's home address. This lady takes notice of Vale, but she disappears before he spots her. He makes his way to Pierce's property, which is one of my favorite sets out of any Cronenberg film. Vale asks if he knows Daryl, and a van pulls up with a bunch of well-armed scanners working for Revik. The lady from the gallery is a scanner as well, and informed Pierce that Vale was coming, and they crawl inside a giant head as he asks Cameron what he really wants. The mob approaches and Pierce explains that his art keeps the voices out and keeps him sane. Vale doesn't have anything he's passionate about to focus on, so he insists he needs Revik's help. Pierce knows he's full of shit and pieces out, only to walk into a hellstorm of shotgun blasts. Cameron begins scanning the group, causing them all to seize, collapse, and get tossed around though. The dying Pierce communicates telepathically with Vale, telling him not to seek out Revik. He'll only be used as an emotionless assassin like these scanners, and he tells him to seek out Kim Obrist before dying dramatically. Cameron returns to a hotel he's been staying at, where Ruth has sent some ephemeral to suppress the many voices he'd typically hear. He locates Kim's address, and another scanner is shocked to learn that Revik killed Pierce. Vale is brought up to Obrist's scanner hideout, and we confirm she is the art gallery lady we saw earlier. They begin to teach Cameron the way of collective meditation, but the good times are about to end as Revik sends more assassins. Great power can be generated through focused group scans, but after taking out the doorman, it seems the process leaves you pretty defenseless. Most of the scanners get yeeted out of existence until Kim lights the assassins on fire, and they retreat to their school bus. They ask Vale why everyone around him is getting murked, and he shares that he was sent by Consec to find Revik in an attempt to assassinate him. This group once again proves to be really unaware of their surroundings as a van with many shotguns pulls up next to them. Everyone except Kim and Cameron are killed, and the van crashes into a record store. They escape through the back, but another one of Revik's men is quickly on their trail. This really is one of the most shotgun-centric films I've ever seen. Kim says there is no chance of stopping Revik now, but Cameron believes there is still hope. Kim tells Cameron that he's barely human, and he couldn't possibly understand how evil Revik is. The assassin appears, but Vale is able to redirect his shots away from them, and he's able to search his body for clues towards Revik. The assassin hands over a vial of ephemeral, which they trace to a company called Biocarbon Amalgamate. The two are able to infiltrate the plant, and Vale discovers that the company develops and distributes large amounts of ephemeral. This distribution is done through a Consec program called RIPE, but they'll need to return to Consec to access the program. Ruth is chilling at his country club when he gets a call from Vale, who says he'd like to be brought in along with an informant from Revik's group. Revik tells Keller it's impossible for Vale to have captured one of his assassins without him knowing, but he tells Keller he should plan to interrogate whoever he brings in just in case. He won't be able to stop Ruth and Vale from speaking though, and Revik says to kill Ruth if necessary. Keller is surprised to hear this, but Revik reiterates these instructions. Kim and Cameron are flown back to the Consec HQ, where they are met with a well-armed welcome party. The two are ephemeraled up, and Ruth and Keller have a pissing contest about who's better at talking the scanners. Ruth meets with Vale, who informs him there were no drugs in the injections they received, so they can still scan if necessary. But he claims not to know of the RIPE program, although he's the one who founded Biocarbon Amalgamate back in the 40s. He sold the company to Consec, hence his position here in the first place, and as far as he knows, the lab now makes chemical weapons. Cameron spills the tea that they make and distribute huge amounts of ephemeral for Revok, and the company seems to be run by him. Ruth wonders where it's being sent out to, and Vale informs him that the RIPE program has the info stored on his own Consec computer. This means that someone at Consec is a traitor working for Revok. Ruth doesn't have computer clearance, but since computers have a sort of nervous system, he believes Vale should be able to scan the RIPE program. Meanwhile, Kim is being questioned by creepy-ass Keller, who proceeds to turn off the cameras. He reveals his knowledge that Kim is not in Revok's group and demands to know what she's trying to pull, but before he can shoot her, Kim tickles his brain a bit. He presses
the alarm button,
and Cameron runs off to search for her. Keller tells security to kill both scanners, and Ruth begins having a bizarre conversation with himself. It seems the RIPE program isn't the first of its kind, and he shudders at the cruelty of it before Keller shoots him in the head. Cameron feels the gunshot and eventually runs into Kim, who informs him that Keller is the double agent. They are surrounded by a pair of guards, but they are quickly dispatched with a mommy issue scan. The two escape and drive to a payphone so Cameron can scan the RIPE program, which also makes it inaccessible to the Consec nerds. Apparently the system is plugged into the telephone system, so theoretically anybody could access it with the right codes, and I'm just gonna assume that all makes sense. They watch as Vale absorbs the data passing by their screens, but Keller asks if there is a way to damage the program, thus hurting Vale in the process. They can in fact cause the entire Consec program to self-destruct, but they cannot do that without permission from Trevelyan. Keller whips out his gun and demands the scientists do it now, and after a series of tip-tapping, they start the self-destruction. The scientists assure Keller there is no need to worry as it's a very quiet process, but he isn't so sure given that a scanner is connected to the system. The system and its tiny personified circuits blow, which causes Vale to go haywire. A series of explosions follow the phone line all the way to the lab, which kills the scientists and Keller. The scanners make their way to the nearest doctor in the RIPE program's inventory, and Kim notices a familiar high-pitched whine coming from a pregnant lady's belly. Combine this with some off-screen questions Vale asks the doctor, and they realize that the RIPE program prescribes ephemeral to pregnant women to turn their babies into scanners. Kim gets darted by a passing car, and Cameron meets the same fate via Revok just outside. He brings them back to biocarbon amalgamate, and Vale wakes in Revok's office. Kim is alive but extra sedated as Revok wants to have a one-on-one chat. He is impressed with Cameron's scanning of the RIPE program, confirming that Keller died in the process, although Vale does not feel bad since he killed Dr. Ruth. Revok says the death of Ruth should be celebrated by them and that he is the only person who has ever tried to help Cameron. He claims to have searched for him for years without luck. That was until Ruth sent him out as his new spy. Revok confirms that Vale has no known mother or father and no childhood memories, and reveals that is by design. He was kept on ice until Revok started giving Consec trouble, and he was thawed out and set into the world as a vagrant until he was needed. He also adds that Ruth is both of their fathers, as they are actually brothers. He shows Vale a 1940s ad for ephemeral, which was designed to ease the unpleasant aspects of pregnancy. The drug was pulled due to an odd side effect, which of course is turning babies into telepaths. Ruth was excited by this strange discovery though, and found an equally excited company to fund his new experiments. But his very first subject during those initial trials was his own wife, whom he tested ephemeral on during both of her pregnancies. Daryl and Cameron are the first two scanners, and apparently they are the most powerful as well. Revok eventually partnered with Keller as they saw the same future of scanner armies used to gain power. They saw it as the future of humankind. Cameron points out he murdered every scanner who didn't join him, but Revok argues they will raise these new scanner babies to be their obedient army. Vale says he sounds just like their father, and the disappointed Revok asks him if he'll betray his own brother. The answer is yes, as Vale bops him with a tchotchke, and Revok begins to suck his brain dry. He plans to completely absorb Cameron so they can continue to be together, and it looks like a painful process. Cameron starts to fight back though, and Revok's face starts getting veiny as well. He is still the more powerful of the two though, and Cameron literally starts falling apart before our eyes. But he refocuses as Revok sets him on fire, and the tyrant has to go into overdrive to finish the job. Kim wakes up sometime later and makes her way into Revok's office, and she is devastated to find Cameron's charred corpse. That is until she hears his voice from the corner, revealing that he is now inside of Revok's body.
We've won.
And that's Scanners. This is a weird one. It has that usual Cronenberg combo of paranoia, politics, and body horror, although this time the body horror exists more as an exterior force. It has some standout sequences. I obviously love the head explosion, but the final battle is also really well done. Those pulsing veins look fucking incredible. Most of the performances are strong, both Keller and Ruth really stand out here. I'm not sure if I can say it's a good performance or not, but Stephen Lack truly seems like he's never interacted with other human beings before in this role. I mostly think it works for Cameron's character, but sometimes the line delivery is so unintentionally hilarious. Michael Ironside definitely steals the show here, and I wish we got a bit more of him throughout. He's definitely the big bad guy of the film, but almost nobody in this film, aside from the innocent scanners caught in the crossfire, are good people. Ruth and Keller are both just as bad. I always appreciate when a film trusts its audience and doesn't spoon feed them information, but Scanners can be a little tricky to follow at times. You're thrown right into the premise and you're expected to catch on quickly as Cameron bounces from one bizarre group to the next with very little gained from the encounters. Pierce would have been a fascinating character to get more of, but he is killed too quickly. And the group scanning meditation thing also gets no real explanation or use later on. Scanner abilities are vague at the very best, and I feel the general plot could have been more cohesive. While most people agree on the ending, it's actually somewhat ambiguous. There are two real possibilities in my mind. The first is that Revok did exactly as he said he would by completely absorbing his brother, which may have caused him to take on a few of Cameron's features. The other option is the more popular and argues that while Revok was destroying Vale's body, the latter was able to switch consciousnesses with him, thus trapping Revok in Vale's body as it was burned. That's probably the ending that I buy the most, as it really feels like weird-ass Cameron is in control at the end. Perhaps they do have some sort of shared consciousness though. What did y'all make of the ending? Let me know down below. I do think Scanners is one of Cronenberg's least horrific films, at least in the sense that I don't feel I'm supposed to be frightened by what is happening on screen. Aside from 2 or 3 scenes, it really is more drama and action than pure horror. If you're looking for a Cronenberg fix, you can't go wrong with Scanners, but it isn't my favorite for that reason. There are just other options that are scarier and weirder. But overall, I definitely recommend Scanners to anyone who hasn't seen it. Its bleak tone, great effects, and unique take on telepathy are more than enough to warrant a viewing. Well, that's about it. Thank you again to my patron Lee for requesting Scanners for me to review. It was fun to revisit this one. Be sure to join me in 2 weeks as we check out a late 80s low-budget slasher called Killer Workout. Thank you all for joining me, and an extra thank you to my patrons. As always, I'm Noah Hook, and thanks for watching Hamburgers and Horror. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching my review of Scanners. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all my horror reviews. And if you want to help support this channel further, be sure to check out my Patreon account. You'll be able to vote for future movies and franchises I cover on the channel. Thanks, y'all.